People who commit several murders over a period of time are known as serial murderers and elicit both horror and a certain level of curiosity from the general population. But what can contemporary psychology and neuroscience teach us about the possible mental processes that are taking place inside the heads of such individuals? Let's find out in this episode. Serial killers are characterized by a profound lack of empathy for the victims of their crimes, as well as an apparent absence of guilt for their deeds. On the other hand, many of them may be outwardly appealing, which enables them to pull potential victims into the destructive web that they have woven for themselves. A rational self that is able to successfully navigate the intricacies of acceptable social behavior and even charm and seduce, and the other a significantly more evil self that is capable of the most unspeakable and violent acts against others is one explanation for cognitive dissonance. Another explanation for cognitive dissonance is that serial killers are individuals in whom two minds coexist. This viewpoint has served as a potent inspiration for a wide variety of literary interpretations, ranging from Hitchcock's Psycho and the film Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, to the more contemporary film Split. Dissociative identity disorder, also known as DID, is a condition in which an individual has two or more identities cohabiting in their head, presumably unconscious of one another. However, there is no evidence to suggest that real-life serial killers suffer from this condition. Instead, dissociative identity disorder is a syndrome that is more commonly seen in abuse victims than in abusers. These victims develop several personas as a coping mechanism to help them deal with the trauma that they have experienced. In fact, a person who abuses others can also be a victim of abuse, and a large number of serial killers were mistreated when they were children. However, in general, these killers do not appear to have split personalities, but rather to be persons who are aware of their actions. Despite this, there is most certainly a dichotomy in the minds of people like this, which is perhaps best personified by the serial killer Ted Bundy. Bundy was described as a charming, handsome, and successful individual. Yet also, a sadist, necrophile, rapist, and murderer with zero remorse, who also took pride in his ability to successfully kill and evade capture. One of the most perplexing aspects of the minds of serial killers is the fact that they appear to be devoid of, or have the ability to suppress, the emotional responses that, in other people, allow us to recognize the pain and suffering of other humans as being comparable to our own and to empathize with that suffering. A recent study that scanned people's brains came up with a potential reason for this shortcoming. This demonstrated that criminal psychopaths have a reduced connectivity between the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that processes negative stimuli, and those that give rise to fearful reactions, and the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that interprets responses from the amygdala. Criminal psychopaths are more likely to commit violent crimes. When there is a low level of connection between these two areas, the processing of unpleasant stimuli in the amygdala does not transfer into any negative emotions that are felt to a significant degree. It's possible that this is why criminal psychopaths don't feel guilty about their conduct or sorry when their victims are harmed. However, it appears that serial killers also have an amplified emotional drive, which results in a strong desire to inflict pain and suffering on other people. On a brain level, this seeming discrepancy in emotional reactions still has to be explained. At the same time, we must not disregard the role that social forces play as significant contributors to the maturation of such incongruous impulses. It is possible that serial killers have somehow developed the ability to regard their victims as nothing more than an item to be exploited, or even as a collection of unrelated pieces assembled together. This may explain why some killers have sex with the bodies of their victims after they have killed them, or even why other killers convert their victims' bodies into objects of use or ornament, but it does not explain why these killers appear so motivated to injure and kill their victims. It's possible that many people who commit serial murder are insecure people who feel forced to kill out of a neurotic dread of being rejected, and this might be one reason for the later phenomena. The experience of having a father, who either abandons or abuses them, appears to be the root cause of the dread of being rejected in many situations. Because of this anxiety, a person who is just starting out as a serial murderer could feel the need to get rid of anybody or everything that they care about. They could start to believe that if they kill the person they have feelings for, they can protect themselves from being rejected, humiliated, or harmed in any other way, similar to how they were treated when they were children. It would appear that serial killers are likewise devoid of any sort of social conscience. When we are young, we learn the difference between good and wrong by the examples set for us by our parents, siblings, teachers, peers, and other significant adults in our lives. Because of this, we are less likely to engage in behavior that is harmful to society. However, serial killers give the impression that they believe they are free from the most significant societal penalty of all, which is to not take the life of another person. At his trial, for instance, Richard Ramirez, who was dubbed the Night Stalker by the media, asserted that, "You don't comprehend me. It is not anticipated that you will. You are not able to do what is required. I stand outside of your realm of experience. I am immune to both good and evil." This so-called civilized society's creed, which is full of hypocrisy and moral relativism, is not something I subscribe to. It is still not completely understood why some people respond to violence or trauma they experienced earlier in their lives, by becoming serial killers later on in their lives. But we can only hope that fresh insights into the psychological or neurological foundation of their acts may one day help us detect possible future killers of this kind and persuade them not to commit such heinous crimes. Researchers examined the minds of more than 800 inmates for their study. The brains of persons who have been convicted of murder appear to be different from the brains of people who have been convicted of other crimes. These changes might be connected to the ways in which these individuals process empathy and morality. New research that was co-authored by a leading neuroscientist at the University of Chicago found that individuals who had committed or attempted homicide had decreased gray matter when compared to those who were involved in other offenses. The research was conducted by examining brain scans of more than 800 incarcerated men. These losses were particularly noticeable in areas of the brain related with the processing of emotions, the regulation of behavior, and the comprehension of social situations. According to Jean Desity, the Irving B. Harris Distinguished Service Professor in Psychology and Psychiatry at the University of Chicago, more gray matter means more cells, neurons, and glia. She was referring to differences between the orbitofrontal cortex and the anterior temporal lobes of the brain. That is what you require in order to do calculations, in order to process information, whether it is emotional information that you use in order to feel empathy for someone else, information that you use in order to regulate your conduct, or in order to suppress your urges to respond. Thanks for watching. What was the most interesting thing you heard in our video? Let us know in the comments. If you like watching this video, leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and I hope I will see you in our next video. Stay safe.